you looking to learn more about your spiritual journey? Are you on a healing journey? Have you tried conventional ways of healing but didn't get the results you desired? If so, this podcast is for you. My name is Reverend Dr. Jackie Cope, and I'm a metaphysical minister, intuitive guide, and teacher. Here at Raven Rabbit, we believe that your ancestors, spiritual guides, and divine self are ready and eager to help you heal and prosper. We approach life, healing, and happiness through a holistic, indigenous spiritual lens to create the lives we want. Join me to radically change your life today. Hey, beautiful soul. Pause what you're doing and lean in for a second. I want to personally invite you into something I've never created before. It's called, Oh, I Don't Hate Myself. I was just never taught to love me. A 12-week transformation experience for anyone who's ever felt unworthy, unseen, or stuck in cycles of self-sabotage. This isn't surface level mindset work. This is ancestral healing, energetic realignment, deep remembering. Working with me inside this container isn't like coaching. It's like coming home to yourself with a guide who sees all of you, your spirit, your story, your sacredness. And here's the thing. You don't have to do this alone anymore. You don't have to keep carrying what was never yours to begin with. If you're feeling that pull, that whisper that says, this is for me, then it is. Doors are officially opening July 28th. Head over to the link in my bio or DM me. I want to love myself, and I'll send you everything you need to get started. Let's rewrite the way you love yourself for good. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Raven Rabbit Wellness Studio podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Jackie Cope, and I am so glad that you are here today. As you know, doors are open. Hopefully, you do know the doors are open to my Oh, I Don't Hate Myself. I was just never taught to love me course. Doors will be closing very soon, July 17th, I believe. Let me double check my calendar. Yes, July 17th. So you have one more week to join us in this live round. It's 12 weeks, and we're going to dive deep into self-love. And the past two podcasts, I started talking about those types of things, the types of things that we will be going over in this course. Today, I want to bring up another good point. I saw this, my husband actually saw this on Facebook, and he wrote, I think this person wrote a comment to one of my husband's posts about my course, and it was that, you cannot practice self-love because self-love is narcissism. And I told my husband, like, wow, that is such a big one to unpack. Like, I have a whole podcast episode about that. I touch on it briefly within my course too, but I only touched it briefly because I'm so into the fact that that's so far from the truth that I only brushed on it. I didn't even dive that deep into it. But if your chances are, if you're taking my course, you probably don't believe that anyways, but if it's something you're worried about, let's talk about it here. And if you're just a listener from the outside looking in and you're curious about more, these are the types of things that we dive into. So this episode is all about why self-love is not narcissism. And first, in order to understand that statement that the commenter made on Facebook of, oh, you can't do self-love. Self-love is narcissism. We first need to ask ourselves the two definitions. What is the definition of self-love? And what is the definition of narcissism? So, oh, I have so many answers just flooding into me. You know, when I do this work, I connect with my spirit team and my guides, and there's just so many things. We were recently listening to a podcast, my husband and I, and they were talking about just what love was. What is love? And love is just this unconditional, like, expression of giving. It's an emotion that we give, and it doesn't come with strings attached. It doesn't come with all these other things and conditions. It's just unconditional giving in like the highest realm possible. Like, to define love is so difficult. And that podcast we were talking, I was listening to with my husband, I was talking about was There's just so many different ways to think about love. Oh, I remember we were listening to a podcast. We were at the Center of Spiritual Living, and she got into like the 8 different types of love and using the Greek words for it. And we usually think of agape love, like that oneness love. We also think of a romantic love. Like love is such a big thing to define in itself. But when we look at all of them, like they're all very positive, very heart-filling, heartwarming things. It's the highest and best for our good. And love is just a beautiful thing and a beautiful emotion. So then when we talk about self-love, we're talking about our own love for ourselves, which we also need to be expressing this givingness of unconditional love to ourselves as well, for our higher selves being and for our being here in the third dimension here on earth. It's really making me want to pull up her poster she had because self-love was one of the 8 loves that are of the types of loves out there. And many of us were not taught self-love. Not on purpose, but just by default, by chance. Like we've come out of different things, different traumas in our lives, and our parents were doing the best they could with what they had. In my generation lineage, like my grandma went through assimilation. We're talking about natives being outlawed of practicing their religion till the 1970s. So my grandma wasn't connected to our native religious very much. Being it was illegal to speak our language. Like we're talking some generational stuff that's very heavy for my family that we're coming out of. As a society, we're talking about different wars we've been through, and then just like culturally and societally, like we talk about recessions and economics. Like our families have been through a lot. And chances are they might have not had time or didn't know the importance of teaching self-love. And it's just something that's not been built in us. And that's why I created the course that I have, is because I had to learn it for myself. Because once I started learning self-love, my whole life has shifted and still continues to shift as I deepen my practice for self-love. Because again, like most journeys, it's not linear, it's circular, and there's just more and more layers to it. So self-love is that giving we give to ourselves, grace, compassion, understanding, care. All of those things encompass love. And we generally give it out to other people. We can be really forgiving and loving to our friends, to our family. Sometimes we overgive it too much to people who don't deserve it, who have showed us repeated patterns of abusive ways of being, and yet we still give this love. However, when we turn that around back on us, we make one mistake, we are our worst critics. And you'll hear these things come out of people's mouths like, I'm my worst critic. I'm my own worst critic. I will be so hard on myself. But why? You wouldn't do it to somebody else. You should be the most loving towards yourself. The brag should be, I love myself so much and I give myself space for the mistakes I make, and then I grow and I learn from them. So that's that love piece, right? And so the comment on Facebook was practicing self-love is narcissism. Well, what is narcissism? From my little bit of research I've done on it, I am not a narcissism expert, and this was very surprising to me. And this comes from Blaise Agar, in which a lot of my stuff's based off of with the self-hate. He brings up 2 different types of narcissism. One we're very familiar with. We're familiar with grandiose narcissism. And that's exactly, I think, what this person on Facebook was talking about. This type of narcissism, grandiose narcissism, is where a person only sees how great they are. But it doesn't stop there. They only see how great they are, and they want others to give them that love and admiration for how wonderful they are and how they are always right. A narcissist needs to hear that back to them. They need to hear it repeated back to them. So that's the big difference here with self-love. When you give yourself self-love, you don't need to run around and also collect the admiration of others to be like, oh yeah, I do love myself so much, don't I? You've seen it. You see how great my self-care routine is, huh? Isn't it wonderful? You don't need that back at you. You just already have it within you. and it's there, it's enough. That self-love is enough. Narcissism starts pulling into other things and having to get the people around us to also subscribe to that narrative we've made about ourselves, whatever it might be, that we're always right, we're always the best, we're so wonderful, whatever that narrative may be. That's the type of narcissism that I was familiar with and that I know generally we talk about. There's a different type of narcissism, and it's called vulnerable narcissism. And these folks suffer from significant insecurities, and they have to seek reassurance and positive attention rather than power and dominance. And so again, a vulnerable narcissist is just so insecure with their own selves. They don't stand on their own foundation. They must constantly seek validation from outside sources. Okay? So this makes me think too of like when we have self-love, we have self-validation. If you do not have self-love, you will constantly invalidate yourself, self-invalidation. And that's where vulnerable narcissism can start festering because you just have such deep insecurities and you're just so worried. You start making these scenarios in your head and invalidating your real like, lived experience. And you'll be like, but the way that that person looked at me, the tone they used when they said this, and that starts getting into like when a boss critiques you or a friend brings up something a little bit sensitive with you, or you're just having a regular conversation with somebody, but their tone might have been off. So vulnerable narcissists will just live in that area in that moment. And then instead of like wanting power, like a grandiose narcissism of like, oh, I'm so wonderful, I'm so great, they just need positive attention and reassurance. They're constantly needing to be refueled by others, not themselves. So those are the really big differences here. So when we're talking about, now let's put this all together. We have self-love, and then we have the understanding now of narcissism on the whole. There might be two types, but it's that outside seeking reassurance in whatever capacity it might be. That has nothing to do with self-love. When you have deep self-love, the outside world, you don't need validation from, you don't need reassurance from, positive from, you don't need them hyping you up. You just have it living within inside of you. From your higher self to God, source, universe, your angels, your spirit guides, our alien galactic beings, like you just have it within you and you just know it and you live firm in that foundation. So the act of self-love really is quite rebellious because you're disconnecting from the outside world and just living truly deeply with who you are and who you are meant to be and in your own power without outside influence. A narcissist, oh, this is just coming to me from my spirit guides. I want to say like when somebody is suffering from narcissism, they cannot stand on their own in their own foundation. They constantly need others around them and within their circle to feed the narratives that they have created, whatever narrative that may be. And that's kind of like what I'm hearing from the spirit guides is they can't stand alone. Somebody who has self-love can stand alone and they can go do whatever and they don't need somebody there to hold their hand and baby them through it. Okay? So, the act of showing yourself self-love is not narcissism. You are not being selfish when you practice self-love. You are being firmly planted and grounded in who you are and who your spirit team knows you can be and are, and it's a reclamation of your power. Okay? So don't let all these others get you twisted and think that you're being selfish or you're being a narcissist or you're having narcissism traits. You're not. Self-love is just full compassion, it's love, it's everything that's highest and best and it's beautiful. But to get there though, sometimes isn't easy. And that's why I created my course and gave us this 12-week container to really talk about it and get deep in it because everyone has nuances. Everyone has their own version and their own way of getting there in their own journey. There is no one size fits all on this path. So if you want to learn more about this, if this is really speaking to you and you want to dive a little bit deeper, please reach out to me. I am here. I'm your coach. I'm your metaphysical minister. I am here to guide you and to help you along this path. And I want to hear your stories and I want to hear where you're at with this. Where are you at with your self-love? Until next time, be love and light, and thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Expand the life, healing, and happiness of others in your field by sharing this episode. You can get more of my content and other helpful tips by following Raven Rabbit LLC on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Be sure to comment on Spotify and answer the episode's question so I can keep creating content you love and desire. Thank you so much.